Okay, on to the real work of color mixing to camouflage your strip. Now, before we get started, know that this is going to take time, patience, and a lot of trial and error to get these colors mixed just right. And that's okay. Acrylic paint covers right over itself, so if you don't get the color just right, you have another chance to try again. So I would advise working from the background to the foreground. So the background's the top part of your page normally, and then the foreground is on your way down. The reason for that being, you want to start with things that are tucked behind other things, so that as you paint like the mountain over top of the sky, it actually looks like it's in front of the sky, and there isn't accidentally some sky over top of the mountains. Okay, so you can really do this with just the primary colors and white and maybe a little bit of black. You can use the other colors that we have available, but sometimes I find it's almost easier just to use the primary colors too. Okay, so I'm going to start with the colors for the sky. Now, we talked about with Impressionism, they do a lot of what's called optical mixing, which is where you have a lot of those different colors laid right next to each other to kind of give it the overall impression. If we look closely at this, we can see a brighter yellow, an orange, and a yellow tint, and even some of a darker yellow-orange. Okay, so what I would do right away is try to color match all of those colors and get some different strings of color on my palette so that I can then go ahead and just start creating that texture around there. So I'm going to start with trying to make this yellow-orange color. So I'm going to start with yellow. Add a little bit of red. It is helpful to do your mixing with a smaller brush, even if you're going to paint with a larger brush, because with the larger brush you get a lot of the paint trapped into your brush. Smaller brush, not as much. Okay, so I have an orangey color, so I can go ahead and test it out. So we can see that it's too dark. I think what I'll do is add some white. Now you can either get a fresh brush when you want to get white to add in, or carefully take from the edges so you don't contaminate the white right in the middle. So that'll be frustrating for you later. Try a little bit of white to this. I also think probably dull the intensity a little bit right away. And since this is an orangey color, we know blue will dull the intensity just a little bit. This color is actually getting me a lot closer to what I want, especially up in here. So while I have it mixed, I think I'll just put some of it down. Notice how these brush strokes are very much rounded around the sun. So even though I'm going to build up a lot of different colors, well, I have this color that's not too bad. I'm going to start making some of those brush strokes in that rounded way around the sun. Pay close attention to which way the brush strokes are going. And I know it's a little darker around the sun here, so I can go ahead and start that. Okay, so I need to add more red into this. I can tell now that I have a little more painted around. I need a little more red and I think a little more white too, because it is a little lighter of a color yet. Okay, I'm going to try some of this color in here. Now this color I think actually is getting me closer to that color in this strip. It's not perfect yet, so I'm going to put a little bit of it down and then see what I need to do from there. I think from what I'm seeing is it just needs to be lighter, so even more white. And I might mix with just a part of it here because I want to get it a lot lighter, and that would take a lot of white to mix with the whole thing. And I might be able to adjust this color a little more another way, or I might need some darker spots in here. Much closer here now. There's a lot of this color in there. Now, in trying to match that brushwork, I might need to use a smaller brush at times because this brushwork is a little smaller. Down here it is a little darker, that light color isn't quite matching up. So I'm going to try and find that in-between color, which is maybe this pile that I have with a little less white in it, or even with a little bit of this where I have even less white. There we go, I'm getting a lot closer there. Now another thing I might need to do, and I'm thinking I might need to do that in here, sometimes to dull the intensity you need to add gray. So I've already added white to this, so adding gray is really just adding black, and very little black at that. So I'm going to try and get a little black on my brush and mix it away from the pile because I don't want to contaminate my whole pile with the black. And like I said, it's not going to be very much that we'll need. Let's see what that does. Okay, that's too much. It looks too gray there in the sky, but I think it's getting us closer. So once again, I'm mixing at the edges so that I don't waste a lot of paint trying to get to the right color. Okay, I'm gonna try that. That's getting there, that's pretty good. I'm gonna bring some of that color that I put a little gray into over here too, because this isn't quite matching up. Okay. I like that color that I have. I'll make sure I save that, but I'm gonna mix this yellow color now so I can start matching it a little more closely. So I'm going to take some yellow, and it always works well once you start mixing colors to mix with what you already have mixed. That's what I do. So I would steal some of this because, you know, it's just got a little bit of red and a little bit of white in it, which is what I need. So I mix it right in. And I know I'm going to need more white because I found out there's a lot of tints in the sky. So I'll get some more white right away. Test this color out to see where I'm at. A little too bright yet. I'll need a little more white in there, I think. It's too vibrant. So that's getting closer then. Down here I think this is starting to look camouflage pretty well. Up there is still too bright, so I'll have to get that covered up. but it's a little wet right now. Sometimes you can just wipe some off too. Okay. So I think at points I'm going to need some of this yellow, like in here, that's a little more vibrant, but then there's also more muted yellow in here, like more white yellow. So I'm going to split this pile that I've made and create a more white yellow also. And you can see that had a little bit of orange in it from the white, which I'm okay with because it does have a little orange in it anyways. That's what's fun about color mixing. As you go, you're not even using your regular colors anymore. You're using everything you have on your palette and just mixing with it more. Like now, there's a really whitish, sort of peachish color in there that I'm going to mix right away. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow pile, a little bit of my orange pile, just a little more red because it's kind of a reddish color, and then a bunch of white. I'm going to mix that color too. So you get a lot of little piles of color. They're going to have very little differences, but you'll know. As you go, you'll get to really know your color palette, and you'll know exactly which colors you're working with where, and it can be really fun. Get more white in here. Okay, I think I'm getting to a pretty good color there. So this is what I kind of mean by a color string. I have all these variations of this orange, yellow, the yellow, orange, yellow color, all these tints. Let me use my little brush. I'm gonna go in there and I'm just gonna keep working away at this with the little brush strokes around here until I think that my strip looks camouflaged in there. And then I'll extend those colors and the brushwork all into the rest of the sky. Okay, another note about Impressionism as we're going here is that a lot of times the Impressionist painters never really cleaned out their brush, especially when I'm working in an area like the sky here, where these colors are all so similar that I'm trying to get them to optically mix together, which means I'm laying different strokes of color next to each other, but when I'm all done, the eye will perceive this sky as kind of a general yellow-orange color, even though we've got all these different tints of yellow-orange going on in here. So I'm not rinsing out my brush, and I'm just working in between colors, just putting in little strokes of color, continually going back and forth. Can kind of help to blur your eyes a little bit too, so that you can really see the colors well. And kind of blurring your eyes will help you see where you see that line between your strip and your background, or where you see that it's really different. And that can help you fix it. So just keep working with those little strokes, blur your eyes, and no need to clean out your brush.